Welcome to Retiring Well. We've got a great show lined up. We're going to be talking through preparing the next generation. So if you're considering what to do with your assets for children, grandchildren, you'll want to be tuning in. And then Ashley will be talking a little bit about protecting against scams and different financial exploitation that you want to be cautious of. Jack will be talking through different tax tips and specifically how to retire early with the 72T. What is that and how could that apply to you? Virgil will be getting into a deep dive. Will my expenses change in retirement? We've seen that a lot over the years, and how is that going to affect you? And lastly, Ray, in the news, the farewell to the penny. So we'll be talking about all this and a whole lot more coming up right here, right now on Retiring Well.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well. Plan to retire well.
As you think of financial planning and retirement planning, oftentimes people only think that applies to somebody older than them or of certain age. Retirement, in many cases, a lot of people, I think of the time of around the mid-60s or somewhere in there. Well, retirement doesn't have to be a specific day, obviously. Maybe you know somebody that retired very young. Maybe you know somebody that's still working and enjoying things till later. But the important piece is planning. And so starting that planning as early as possible is obviously important. So we've been really encouraged lately, and we've seen a pretty big influx of younger individuals coming into the office and expressing an interest in their retirement planning and starting to want to plan for their future. And it's really rewarding to work with those individuals and kind of getting them on this path from that perspective. So we want to take a bit here and kind of talk about like the generations and maybe some of the things to be looking at and what that may pertain to you out there, whether you're somebody that's in your early 20s or maybe you're just getting into like your career or something like that, or all the way up to that individual that's thinking of retiring tomorrow.
Yeah, so it might be a little early, but for my own children that are now a couple of teenagers and everything, we're talking about retirement planning and what that means, and Roth IRAs. They're just thrilled to be talking about that, as you can imagine, Art. Yeah, exactly. But when you get into, say, your 20s and your 30s, that's where you really want to start looking at that. Maybe you're maybe past education, hopefully, and now you're looking at starting that career, building up some savings maybe, you're starting a family, maybe you're considering home ownership and what that looks like. Those are different things that obviously here at Centennial Wealth, we've been through that process and we can talk through that process, what that looks like. Then moving on, you get into your 40s and 50s. Hopefully you're advancing in your career, and over that time frame, that's where we really start to see people trying to start to build for that retirement security. You see a lot of times then, okay, as now the career is moving forward, maybe your income allows you then to save a little bit more for retirement, and now you're at that stage potentially where you're figuring out, wait, the kids are getting older, what about education and potential funding for that? So these are all different areas that we can walk alongside you and help provide some guidance.
Yeah, and then the next group there, maybe in your 60s and it's touching in the 70s and stuff like that, likely thinking about retirement at this point. Hopefully you've already done some planning. If you haven't, it's not too late. But starting to kind of think about that maximization of Social Security potentially. Maybe you have some pensions and looking at different options there of really kind of hone in on those maybe last few high earning years maybe in some cases, and how do you maximize that retirement savings and maybe tax efficiently put that money aside. And if you already hadn't done so at this point, you got to be working on some estate planning, making sure those assets know where to go when you're gone so that burden doesn't fall on your loved ones. And then when we kind of get into that group after that, the 70, and a little bit up from there, you start looking at required minimum distributions, QCDs, how to be handling those minimum distributions every year. Then looking again at tax planning, again, from a bit by bit, how does that affect you in various things and stuff like that? And then really legacy planning, right? You know, what happens when you're gone? How would you like to see those assets passed off to your heirs, and making sure that's done efficiently, not only for yourself, but then for their perspective as well, so they don't bear the burden of your maybe poor planning from a perspective on the tax side to hit them when maybe some of your beneficiaries are in some of their prime earning years as well.
Yeah, and one of the interesting statistics that I just read out there talked about over the course of the next 25 years, there's going to be a $53 trillion asset transfer as we see the baby boomers aging and passing those funds on to the next generation. Sort of what does that look like? And so if you're in a position where maybe you're anticipating not spending all of your retirement savings, how do you best prepare your children or grandchildren to continue to start thinking through all of these different steps and different age brackets that you need to be considering when it comes to your retirement planning, because there's so much to learn and so much that you need to be considering.
Absolutely, John. I think the key takeaway, if you remember anything from here, this segment that John and I have talked about today, is no matter what age you are, if you're tuning in today, there's something you probably can be doing to help your situation. Again, whether you're younger, older, or anywhere in between, we'd love to sit down with you, even if it's just a 15-minute phone call to ask some questions with one of our team members and advisors, giving us that opportunity to see where you're at and even run an analysis, give some projections out there so you can plan to retire well.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to take me on vacation?
Will you be there for my ball games?
Will you teach me your values? You'll be able to play with me.
Oh, help me go to college. How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. Contact us today.
Everyone knows the BBB is the Better Business Bureau, but depending on what you need, it's the Better Plumber Bureau, the Better Auto Mechanic Bureau, the Better Accountant Bureau. That's because the BBB connects people with businesses they can trust. So think of the BBB as the better check that business out first so you don't get ripped off bureau. Be smart. Always look for the BBB seal because it's looking out for you. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
Today we're talking about something every retiree, family member, and every caregiver needs to understand. And that's how important it is to protect yourself from scams and financial exploitation. It's one of the fastest growing threats facing retirees today. And so why do scammers target retirees? Now, they don't just go after money, they go after trust. They target retirees because they assume they have predictable income, a lifetime of savings, and a desire to help or protect their loved ones. And that's why these scams are becoming so sophisticated and emotionally manipulative. So here are some common scams to watch out for. The urgent problem scam. If you ever get a call saying your Social Security will stop, you owe back taxes, your account is locked, that is not how legitimate agencies operate. No government agency will ever demand money over the phone. Now, there's also tech and device scams. This includes emails about password resets, pop-ups saying your computer is infected, or messages asking you to verify your account. If you didn't expect it, do not click on it. And then the next is loved one in trouble scams. Now, these are absolutely heartbreaking. A scammer pretends to be a grandchild or a family member, claiming there's been an accident, an arrest, or an emergency. Their biggest weapon is urgency. So always verify with another family member before sending any money. So here are 4 practical steps to protect yourself. The first step is freezing your account or credit. It prevents accounts from being opened in your name. Step 2 is using 2-factor authentication. It adds a second layer of protection on your banking, investment accounts, and email. And then step 3 is Create a trusted contact list. Your advisor will flag unusual activity with someone you trust. And lastly, slow the situation down. Scammers prey on panic. Take 24 hours to assess the situation and slow down that urgency. So here's how we help protect clients here at Centennial Wealth Advisory. We take scam prevention very seriously. We routinely catch suspicious requests, unusual withdrawals, or emails that just don't feel right. And we verify everything before acting. We're not just managing your investment accounts, we're helping protect your financial life. A few months ago, one of our long-term clients walked into our Traverse City office and visibly shaken. She received a call from her grandson saying that he had been arrested and needed bail money immediately. And the caller knew names, details, and it sounded completely legitimate. But instead of acting out of fear, she came in, she talked with us, she took a moment to assess. We sat, we helped her call some family members and confirmed that her grandson was perfectly safe at a college, going about his day because she paused, she avoided sending $8,000 to $10,000 to this scammer. Now, these moments are exactly why having a trusted advisory team matters. Scams are becoming more and more sophisticated every year, but awareness, a trusted team, and the willingness to slow down can protect not just your savings, but your peace of mind. So if you found this conversation helpful, visit our Retiring Well YouTube channel, and we publish weekly videos on retirement planning, fraud protection, Social Security, and so much more. And make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update. And then also, if you want to learn more about our advisors, our mission, and the work we do every day to help our families retire confidently, visit our website at cen-wealth.com. It's the best place to get to know our team, what we do, and who we are. And if you'd like to meet with one of us, just like the client who visited our Traverse City office, you can schedule a free conversation by giving us a call or right through the website, cen-wealth.com. We'd love to meet with you and learn about your goals in retirement.
Living life isn't always easy. It puts up challenges and obstacles you'll have to overcome. There are responsibilities. You put an effort to provide and take care of your family, and to save and invest, to balance work and life. Planning is the first step to succeeding. Plan to retire well.
Finding a reputable business shouldn't require luck or chance. But how can you tell who you can trust? Pro tip: the BBB connects people with businesses they can trust. So think of the BBB as the better. Check with the BBB first, because better businesses are honest and commit to high ethical standards bureau. That's why they're better. Always look for the sign of a better business and find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
Hey, welcome to this segment on Retire Early with the 72T, otherwise known as Substantially Equal Periodic Payment Plan. This allows you to get rid of the 10% early withdrawal penalty that typically you would have to pay on an IRA if you were taking distributions before the age 59 and a half. So before I get too far along, maybe I have to introduce myself now that I, am grown a beard. I did No Shave November, but it started in October, and so I found out my wife actually likes my beard, and people have said, you look a lot wiser, Jack. And so I thought, okay, I guess we'll go with that. So anyways, Jack Clooney with Centennial Wealth, and thanks for that little rabbit hole. So I recently had a case out of Manistee where a client came in and they knew their numbers. And what they said is, okay, I'm going to be 54 and I'm going to retire. I've had a great job, a great career. I spent 30 years doing this, and I've been a great saver. retire. And so they had a really healthy balance in their 401k. And they said, I just want to explore what that would look like to start taking income, before age 59 and a half. So we started looking into it and explored the idea, what would it look like to maybe wait until age 55 and retire and use that rule to avoid the 10% early withdrawal penalty, right? So we explored what her 401k plan looked like, and we found it's really pretty captive, limited in what kind of investment opportunities that her plan had. So we said, okay, well, let's look at into what the 72T would look like, because as she retires and they go into their go-go years of retirement, they're going to be spending some money. I mean, that's why they saved up and did what they did before this point. And so what we basically mapped out was an income bucket strategy. So here's what they're looking for. They're looking for better investment opportunities for the distribution part of their IRA, okay? And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a 401k rollover to a traditional IRA. From that traditional IRA, we're gonna segment into a separate IRA account, a very specific amount. And we're gonna use that as income for the next at least 5 years or until she's 59 and a half. So here's some rules, here's how it works. How the 72T works is that there's 3 different equations that you can use to calculate what that distribution is going to be, that annual total distribution. The first one is you could calculate it using a required minimum distribution method. The second one is the fixed amortization method, and the third one is the fixed annuitized method, okay? So basically it's the different rules that the IRS allows you to figure out what your distribution amount is going to be. And once you set that up and you start taking distributions using one of those methods, that you have some flexibility in choosing, but once you choose that, that's what you're stuck with, okay, for the life of that particular sub-IRA account, we'll call it, okay? And as you distribute, you have to follow the rules. So here are the rules. Once you get that in place, okay, you have to take it for at least 5 years or until you turn 59 and a half, whichever is longer. Okay, so in her case, if she's 54, well, we're gonna have to go all the way through she's 59 and a half, because that's the longer amount of those distributions, okay? The second thing is you can't add more money to it. You can't take more out than the method that you chose as the distribution. So there are some captivity to it. You can have multiple 72T IRA accounts though, okay? And so what I might suggest is, if you're looking into this, number one, talk to a tax professional. One of our value adds is that we have a tax team right on staff that help set these up. So what I might suggest is, figure out what you might want that supplement income to be, and maybe estimate a little bit on the lower side and carve off that money into the traditional IRA, set up your SEP specific to that amount. And then if you ever find that a year later that, hey, we really want some more income, but we don't want to pay that 10% early withdrawal penalty, then what you can do is you can open up another and create another 72T distribution plan with a separate IRA account. Now, just as a quick reminder, when you put this money in, it becomes frozen to the choice of the distribution method that you choose. And you don't want to skip a payment. You don't want to break any of the rules, because then you lose the 10% early withdrawal penalty status there, okay? You're not protected anymore. So as it comes to income planning, retiring early, these are awesome things. We do this every single day. If you're sitting there wondering like, hey, I'd just like to learn a little bit more, please. We have plenty of locations in Northern Michigan serving you, being a lifelong learner, partner with you. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching.
Your grandchildren are precious to you. They are your life. This is your time to have that special relationship. Taking care of yourself is taking care of them. Centennial Wealth Advisory is offering a free, no-obligation retirement review to make sure you don't run out of money during your retirement. Centennial Wealth Advisory. Your best is yet to come.
Will my expenses change in retirement? This is a question that people often consider when they're planning for retirement. You know, when most people think about retirement, they picture life costing less. There's no more commute to work, no work clothes, fewer lunches out. And while it's true that some of your expenses will go down or should go down, there's others that might go up. So we're going to walk through today the idea of will my expenses change in retirement? So one, let's think about is housing cost. So once you've retired and let's say you own your own home, maybe you have a mortgage, maybe you don't have a mortgage. Even if you don't have a mortgage, obviously you know this, but it's important to remember, you're still going to have property taxes, homeowners insurance, utilities to cover, and then overall maintenance for that house. And then if you have the mortgage, you're still going to have your principal and interest payment on top of all of that. Another option is maybe you want to rent. If you do decide you want to rent in retirement, it's important to remember that just like everything else, that cost of rent is probably going to go up with inflation and maybe higher than general inflation. So that's something you need to plan for as well. I've often seen too, though, sometimes that people will plan to downsize later in retirement. You know, the kids are out of the house, they don't need as big a home, maybe they downsize, it's less to maintain or take care of. And while that's great, and sometimes it does happen, I would not necessarily budget that if that's not what you're planning on actually doing. The second thing to think about with regards to your expenses in retirement is healthcare cost. So even though you may have Medicare, a lot of retirees face premiums, deductibles, co-pays, dental and vision, and even long-term care costs as well. So these are things to think about with healthcare costs and really try to figure out, do you actually think your healthcare costs will be less in retirement, or is it going to stay the same or possibly even go up? Another thing to think about with regards to retirement is your daily living and lifestyle expenses. So some everyday costs drop naturally when you retire. I mentioned earlier, if you've retired, you are no longer working, you may not need as many cars, or maybe you don't need as newer, nicer of a car for your commute to work. So that's lower. Maybe you don't obviously spend as much on gas then and maintenance on your car because you're not driving as much. Maybe certain clothing that you use for work, you're not. Maybe it's fewer lunches out because you're not at the office running to grab a lunch or a coffee out. You're doing all those things at home. So those are nice things that no longer have to worry about from an expenditure standpoint. But let me tell you about some things that might go up in retirement. And that's specifically that as a retiree or especially newly retired person, you're more likely to spend time and money on hobbies and travel. So I'll speak to the guys out there maybe who like to, or women who like to golf, and that's a real big passion of theirs. Now that you're retired, you know, it used to maybe be you could golf on a Saturday morning. You have a lot more time to golf. Whether it's gardening or whatever the hobbies, going to sporting events, whatever your hobbies are that you're passionate about, then that is something that you're going to have a lot more free time to spend money on and obviously your time on, which is a good thing, but just understand that that cost might go up. Another one is travel. So maybe now instead of a vacation a year, you're retired, you have a lot more time to travel. So whether that's around the United States or obviously overseas, just plan ahead to that, you know, idea that you're going to have more time to travel. You know, there's actually, I did not come up with this, but they refer to this as the retirement spending smile. And what it means is with regards to your retirement, your expenses start high. So, and that's because typically early in retirement, you have more time for travel and hobbies and lifestyle, so your expense is a little higher. And then in the middle, you have more time at home. Maybe you travel less, not as many big trips. And then towards the end, they go back up, and that's because later it's more expensive health care and long-term care costs. So again, the question was to start, will my expenses change in retirement? And the reality is they probably will. And they might follow that spending or retirement smile that I mentioned a minute ago. If you would like to sit down and talk to myself or one of the other financial advisors here and figure out, hey, I want to know have a better handle on my budget in retirement. I want to be able to plan well. I want to retire well. Please reach out to any of our 5 offices in Northern Michigan. We would be happy to sit down with you so that we can help you plan to retire well.
Here at Centennial Wealth Advisory, we feel education is paramount to wise decisions. Your retirement should not be left to chance. Our team of advisors has put together an educational half-hour-long program to discuss the many complex decisions you'll be faced with in retirement, including income, investment, estate, taxes, and healthcare. Tune in weekly to learn about all these topics and so much more, or visit cen-wealth.com.
If you like watching Retiring Well, make sure to go to youtube.com/retiringwell and click the subscribe button to never miss any of our TV shows and other informative videos.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "A penny saved is a penny earned." For more than 2 centuries, the penny has been a small but mighty symbol of American currency. First minted in 1793, the original penny was made of pure copper and featured a woman on the front, referred to as Flowing Hair Liberty. Now, over time, it evolved, most famously in 1909, when the face of the penny changed to Abraham Lincoln's profile in honor of his 100th birthday. He was the first president to appear on a U.S. coin and still graces the front of it today. However, as time has gone on, the penny has not kept up with inflation. According to the United States Mint, it costs $3.69 to produce a penny, which is now made of mostly zinc with a thin layer of copper. Additionally, consumers aren't using cash as much. A Federal Reserve study conducted last year found that cash payments make up 14% of consumer payments. So in February of 2025, President Trump ordered the Treasury Department to stop making the penny, mainly due to its rising costs. And then in November of 2025, the Secretary of Treasury suspended production, and the final batch of pennies was produced. The Mint says that ending penny production will save taxpayers about $56 million annually. While pennies no longer are being made, they still are considered legal tender. As of the end of 2025, the U.S. Treasury Department estimates there are 300 billion pennies in circulation. Businesses and retailers are already having to adjust to the end of penny production. Retailers facing a penny shortage might ask for exact change or round cash transactions up or down to the nearest nickel. Now, some states have laws prohibiting rounding up on cash transactions, making it more difficult for businesses when giving change back. Only time will tell how Americans will adapt without the penny. So if you see one, pick it up, and you might have good luck, as the superstition says, or you might just have a piece of history.